That's the moment the Party for Socialism and Liberation says was inaudible in the critical incident video showing the police shooting that killed Adam Sykes.
Today we tell Mike Brown and the ruling class that we won't be divided. We've seen these tricks before. Immigrants are not dangerous. Capitalism is.
Welcome to Naptown People's Radio, a weekly podcast brought to you by the Indianapolis branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm your host, Danny Abdullah, and I am back with my comrade and co-host,
Derek Ford.
We're here to guide you through the pressing issues facing Indianapolis from the perspective of our people, not our oppressors. And as organizers involved in these issues, we're not just talking about the news, we're making it happen. So today we're going to hear from Jay Grillo about their time in Minneapolis during the No Business as Usual protests on January 30th. But before we hear from Jay, we're going to hear from Derek in the Naptown Breakdown. So what's going on in Naptown?
Well, I'm anxious to get this interview with Jay to get a firsthand account of what is going on in Minneapolis. So we'll keep it a little bit brief today. Two things I want to hit on. One is that Indiana Republican leaders are working to mint a partnership with the late conservative activist Charlie Kirk's youth organization, Turning Point USA. They would basically strive to start chapters in every school and punish those who block their creation. For those who don't know, Turning Point USA is basically a platform for censoring and diminishing the First Amendment rights of college professors and faculty. And they do so through harassment, bullying, and even violence. Now, of course, Kirk was murdered recently, but he had a kind of a falling out with Trump earlier on. But this is something that we need to keep our eye on because Rokita is already up in arms against anything that, anything that is like seemingly progressive or could sound progressive. And it also really exposes the hypocrisy. Like, you want free speech? Okay, well, let's have a debate. We get surveys at our university, right? Are you conservative? How comfortable are you speaking up in class, right? The implication being that, it's overwhelmingly, quote unquote, liberal. But, there's many other reasons. Maybe I'm quiet. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking. Maybe I don't know, Maybe I can't defend my argument against somebody else's. And so, yeah, they targeted professors specifically around Palestine in the beginning, but many of our comrades have been targeted, and it's had to take the organized defense of the people to protect them from their jobs, and it's failed in some instances where professors and faculty and teachers don't have any rights, basically. And the reason I want to bring this up is because it shows an interesting, and I think something that we should pay attention to and think about more, a difference between this Trump administration and the last Trump administration. So the last Trump administration was, I was there at the counter inauguration in DC, right? It was a party. They were happy. They were celebrating, right? The Proud Boys were there, all the neo-Nazis, whatever, ahead of time. His base was this, neo-fascist collection of groupings, right?
Yeah.
But now Trump doesn't really have a base, right? He's alienated himself from, so many people, and there's been so many fractions within the far right that we haven't seen the kind of right-wing protests that we have during 2016 to 2020, right? And so that's why I think we should be carefully attuned to this to see if this is an attempt to create a new base for Trump, right? But the one reliable base for Trump is the Fraternal Order of Police. So on that front, I want to talk about the accosting and violation of the basic human rights of Travion Taylor, who was a juvenile who participated in the Warren walkout. You know, he was in a car full of other young black boys, men. The cops pulled him over. There's discrepancy as to why. Some say there was a traffic signal involved. Some say they smelled marijuana. Well, guess who says what? And you can clearly see in the video that when they come up to them, right, they had a gun. The kids, like, they say, get out of the car before I effing kill you. And the kid's like, wait, and reiterates the question. Before he can do that, they snatch him out of the car. They arrested him, marked him as 18. They said they found a loaded weapon, and they are doing an internal investigation. He's not 18, he's 17. He has school ID on him. It's very clear what he was doing and participating in. Now, the IMPD, of course, issued a basically ChatGPT written statement. So the mother, is of course calling on the IMPD to release the body-worn camera footage, full and unedited, we might add, because they've acknowledged accountability about the language they used, but it's not about the language. Like, I don't care if they said, I'm going to freaking kill you or kick your butt, whatever, right? That's not what's at issue. Like that's like a distraction almost. And so there is an ongoing internal investigation, which we have no right to information on. But the full IMPD statement that was shared to social media on Friday, February 6th, read in part, the IMPD is aware of a video circulating on social media that was recorded during a traffic stop conducted by these cops. Officers began proactively monitoring the protests, blah, blah, blah. While the video does not show the entire incident, some of the language heard does not reflect the standards or values of the IMPD. The involved officer was equipped with a body-worn camera, which recorded the incident. An internal review is underway to determine the full circumstances of the encounter, including the statements captured on video. Now, why do you think I want to raise this, Danny? Let me just throw this out to you. Specifically in terms of the camera.
Right. Specifically in terms of camera. I mean, we have seen over and over again, right? Even with body camera footage or without, right? Like, the cops will kill you with or without a camera. Like, the camera footage actually doesn't matter. Data literally shows that, like, it doesn't actually make a difference. So I don't know. That's my hypothesis. That's why you're bringing it up.
Yeah. And, they have a complete monopoly over it. Like, if I were to shoot somebody, like, that footage would be available to my lawyers and others, right? And they would probably be showing it on the news, but they're not doing that. And they have a right to determine when it comes out, how it comes out, and it comes out in heavily edited, format that basically tries to present the best picture of the police and demonize the victim. And so that's why it was so important what we did with Adam Sykes.
I was going to say, I mean, Adam, the anniversary of his murder is in 15 days from this recording. It's February 25th. And even the footage that they showed his mother was quote unquote unedited, right? And it was in fact not, right? It was in fact like his mother and comrades, getting footage from neighbors that revealed, even this unedited footage, that's in quotes, is edited. So,
yeah. And then the final thing is I have excellent news for our listeners and all supporters of political prisoners. political prisoners of war and all of our people behind bars, especially Shaka Shakur. I received a phone call from him yesterday and also a letter. But the phone call, he communicated that he has been reevaluated as to his security threat, air quotes, down to a 3. So he's going to be getting out of River North back to Beaumont or Buckingham, where they have more programs available where he can communicate. He has been on lockdown since like October, which is collective punishment. But he sent a statement saying, how can you be an illegal on stolen land, right? And ultimately, this will be posted on our site, Shaka's site soon, probably by the time that this episode airs. But the thing is he's saying, okay, people are upset about, Renee Good.
Yeah.
Good. Now we need to tie it in to, because ICE is, new, right? It was created with the Patriot Act. The police are not new. The slave patrols are not new, right? They were not new. So we need to use this as an opportunity to invite people in and build a stronger movement that is not only against ICE, not only against the IMPD, but also against the IDOC and the prisons.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. What is happening with ICE and, the killings that happen in Minneapolis, as well as the killings that happen all over the country with ICE, is something that happens every day in this country when it comes to police and sheriffs, right? Like,
yeah, probably more than once a day.
Absolutely, way more than once a day, right? This is not new, and Travion Taylor, I'm gonna say little boy because he's 17, and to me, you're a child. He is a child. He's a baby, and he's a baby. He's a baby. He's 17 years old, and the rest of the kids who were in the car, I think Trayvon's 17, and then there were like 2 16-year-olds in the car. Like, these are children who are now traumatized. This age-old story in this country of little Black kids being traumatized by police, right? I'm not here to debate. We're not here to debate if he had a gun or not, because I don't actually care if he had a gun or not. No. He was just driving, right? Like, he was just driving. He was at a protest, trying to protest ICE. The irony of him trying to protest ICE at his school.
Who just got away with killing citizens,
Yeah. And then he and his friends get profiled and told, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to effing kill you. And as, I talk about this as a parent of Black boys, and just as like a human being, like, watching that video was like really hard for me to watch. I don't typically watch videos unless I need to for some reason. And like, that was so difficult to watch those kids. And just the terror on their faces as they don't know if they're going to live or not. Right. Because you have explicitly told them that you will kill them.
Yeah. And it's definitely an obvious attempt to put an end to these spontaneous, inspiring student walkouts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which Comrade Cecilia and I were able to go to the North Central one, and we were there recording for Breakthrough News, and it was so inspiring to be around these literal children, and they are so ahead of the game. They're so ahead. They know exactly what's going on. And the police, even there, no one that I saw got threatened to be killed. But even there, the cops were being a-holes to these kids. Right? Because they wanted to stop. They're over it, right? Because these kids are upsetting the system as they should be.
Yeah.
It's dope. Yeah. All right. And that is it for the Naptown Breakdown. We will be right back with Jay. And we're back with Naptown People's Radio. So I am here with Jay Grillo. Jay is an Indianapolis-based documentarian, an artist, and they've been organizing with the PSL for 3 years. Which, anything else you want to tell us about yourself? How did you get started organizing, Jay?
Yeah, in the tail end of 2022, there was a lot of media buzz about this CEO in this library, and there happened to be an action outside of that library that I live next to, and I showed up, and it was December, it was cold, and there was a ton of people there and super energized. And the fact that I not only was energized by that, that I was also seeing people I recognized, or at least seeing the kind of brand recognition of the PSL there, and the handing out of newspapers and flyers and information. Turns out this was a time where there was a previous ousting of a racist CEO for our library here in Indianapolis, and we were preparing to out this other guy that they were trying to put in which he came from not Indianapolis. No one knew him. The library union didn't know him, and they were successful at running him out of town. And since then, we had fought for not only the installation of a new library CEO who was part of or friendly to the union, and we did many other things as the PSL as I got involved more with what we had at our old space, and we were also doing tons of things with all of our different member groups with the center at the time, and so just kept getting involved, snowballed, and really kicked off a new chapter in my life. So I'm happy to be here and happy that I've been involved with the PSL the last 3 years.
I think we're all grateful also that you're involved in the PSL. Jay's a great comrade. I remember that rally, and I hadn't met you then. We didn't know each other then, but I remember that rally and being outside in December and freezing. And it was freezing, but the people were lit. So it was dope. It was amazing. There was so much going on with that. And so 3 years into working and organizing with the PSL, you recently went to the Twin Cities to help with their rallies and their all the things that are happening out there. And that was, what date was that you went out there? Can you remind me? The 30th, okay, of January, right? Which listeners probably are aware of that, but we're going to get into that in this interview. Let's start with, how did you get to Minneapolis? How did that happen for you?
So, as everyone saw, the Friday before, the 23rd, there was a mass action on that Friday, a push for a general strike, and a lot of people were out and energized. And the day after, Alex Peretti was killed, and there was a call for an extension of that general strike. And that wave of energy created this surge of need, and that need was to help my comrades in the Twin Cities. And that came about on a Tuesday night, the following Tuesday, that we were asked, me and my other comrade Lucas were asked to go out and help with the action that would have been on that next Friday on January 30th for a no business as usual call to action mass march in the streets. And it was on that Thursday night that Lucas and I took a bus at 5 p.m. and did an overnight, got there at 6 a.m. 3 hours later, 9:30, we were with everybody, packing things in the cars and being oriented on what we're going to do that day. And
first off, the sacrifice as well as discipline that it takes to get a call on Tuesday evening. I was so sorry I had to call you Tuesday evening, hey, can you do this? But I was also excited for you because we asked you to go and Lucas to go because we knew, okay, these are comrades who can handle this. These are comrades who can go out and do great work, because what's happening in Minneapolis like requires comrades who not only like know what they're doing, but also like don't fold under pressure as well. So yeah, getting that information on Tuesday, and then by Thursday, like, okay, I'm on a bus to Minneapolis, and then 3 hours after you get there, I'm imagining you didn't sleep very well probably on a bus, or maybe that's just me. But 3 hours after you get there, okay, now I'm in it, and I'm working, and I'm with comrades who I've never met before in a city. I don't know if you've ever been to Minneapolis, but a city you're at least probably not familiar with. I'm curious, what was the vibe of the day?
Yeah. When we got there, no, I did not sleep that much, but I was excited to take a bus because, one, didn't have a car, two, could work on my computer and do things while I was there. So I felt productive enough and could kind of flex what would have been a work day on a Friday. And I also know people there that aren't just comrades, but are friends. And so that's who I ended up staying with. I got picked up from the station at the St. Paul station and went over to my friends and actually took a nap. And then
that's good.
And then,
okay.
then my friend took me over to the church in which we were asked to arrive at 9:30, and I was actually kind of energized for the day. So it wasn't too terrible. The vibe of the day was very efficient and exciting. The efficiency came from the fact that everyone that shows up there, including the like comrades from all over, you got LA, Boston, Florida, Arizona, Colorado, up north, Pacific Northwest, Michigan. You got places all over the United States that were represented that day. Every single person there felt like somebody that I know here in Indianapolis. Everyone was willing, able, energized, and capable, and it was as if I hadn't left Indy. I kind of felt like I didn't, because I was just in legit darkness going on the bus, so I was like, I don't even feel like I've left, like my perception of space and time has totally been changed. But then the day starts and I'm realizing like, yeah, these people are just as well equipped as anyone else that I know back home. And I have been to Minneapolis, both to visit the friends that I had stayed with, but also to just see it in a different light. When it was warmer, it was more, I don't know, touristy. Went to museums and stuff like that. This was 0 degree weather. Literally 2 degrees, I think, was the highest of the day. Wow. Despite that, both the people that were organizing and the people that showed out were really energized, almost scarily energized, because it was like, wow, they really have seen a lot. I know one of the comrades out there was a witness to Alex Preddy getting shot, and it was really hard on him, but he was still there, and he was someone who's visited our branch here, and having that dialogue with him after not seeing him for a few months, it was sobering to see what kind of toll that takes on an organizer, on a person. It really tests somebody, and despite that, he was surrounded by people that wanted to keep him energized. And so when we were there at the church where they had everything set up at the days before, they had put together placards and had brought in different, Dunkin' things for coffee and donuts and keeping people fed and energized, but also keeping spirits high. That whole section where they were printing and making the signs, and the signs were also plastered all throughout the church. The church was very accommodating to a lot of people's needs in the community and the needs of the organizers with the PSL there. And we held a orientation that was directed at a little bit of what happened the last week and what's been happening the last few months in the Twin Cities for those that were arriving for the first time or had only been there for a few days. And after that, we then split into teams, and I ended up doing security with a lot of people. A lot of people are doing security. That was the biggest need there. And the security was just us putting on vests, being oriented on where we're supposed to go, how we're supposed to maintain the crowds by making sure people are staying together because we're safer in numbers, and making sure that the needs of those that may have medical attention at that moment are given space and that we're able to get them where they need to go. Luckily, none of that happened. None of the bad medical things were actually a reality for us that day. It went over really smoothly. And despite the cold, it went over really well. There was tons of people, almost 100,000 people showed up, and it was supposed to be where I was going to be the middle of the protest. It ended up still being like the front. So many people showed up throughout the day. It just tailed at the end. It grew and grew and grew. So once I was directing traffic at the end of the march where we're going to end up to mass rally people, I'm just like, wow, they keep coming. People are still coming. And it was fun to direct traffic. That was like the thing I felt like I was really good at that day, was making sure no one got hit by a car. Because some people, it's cold. People are a little angry that day on a Friday. And also, I could go on more about the more economic side of this with the general strike and the no business as usual and what that looks like. But it also showed up in the businesses that we walked by and what else I saw that weekend. And so I would love to talk about that as well.
So we've covered it before, but what, in your own words, what does a general strike mean, and how did that play out in Minneapolis? And yeah, I think myself as well as listeners would love to hear what did that look like, and how did businesses show up?
Yeah. The call for a general strike on that 23rd went over really well. And a lot of businesses did shut down. They were able to do nothing for that day or support people for that day. And a lot of people didn't give their business on that 23rd. It seemed to, however, put somewhat of a strain on the community economically with the small businesses. And so the call for the extension of a general strike was definitely needed, and glad that it happened. The student organizations at the University of Minneapolis were the ones that called for it, the Somali Student Association and a few other groups there. And it was because of that call, we put together a action for no business as usual, and it was due to that we were able to kind of spread this message of a potential general strike, get people talking about it and energized about it. It still wasn't a reality for that day, and that's what we expected. But the reality of that day was people still supporting through, whether it be donations for their business that was open that day to whatever cause, or people showing out at specific places that were economically boosting small businesses or immigrant-led or owned businesses. And it was cool to see that. But the actual actions of that day seemed to fade from the week before, even though the people were still energized. And so the need for more infrastructure of a general strike is definitely there, and it's present, and that conversation is happening all the time there. There's so many conversations happening all the time there. The city is very active. Not a single corner is without a protest sign or someone or a business handing out a sign or whistles or informational zines and pamphlets. There's people always doing something for this moment right now, and that is very cool, but there definitely needs to be more things in place for a general strike to happen. I actually had an opportunity to talk to my friend who I was staying with, who she, at her high school that she is a teacher at, a social studies teacher at, was putting together with other faculty a mutual aid program to do food deliveries to families at their school.
Okay.
And it was through those conversations I really got to see what the needs of these families are with rent assistance and food preparation and with fresh foods especially, the startings of this kind of infrastructure is there. There's tons of mutual aid happening. I know Lucas had also went to a meeting with others that was part of the mass call out for the after the action at the church, where people talked about mutual aid and how to get involved and where to do it in their neighborhood, who can be a block captain, who can make what happen, what connections and networks do we have. So it was definitely a start for something that gives way to the future of a general strike, where people's needs are both met and the economic impact of striking is effective towards an administration and a governance that relies on our dollar. And when we take that away, we are very strong. So the process is definitely snowballing, no pun intended.
It sounds like there's a lot of obstacles in the way of like actually having a general strike in Minneapolis. Although the people are there, like the people want it. It sounds like, and the people are so supportive of one another, which is dope, which is amazing, but also unsurprising, right? Like the people, we often show up for one another. What is, and maybe there's not an answer, but like, what do you feel like is something that is like, what is most needed to get Minneapolis there, like where they're able to pull this off? This is an opinion.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
I think what's really needed, maybe not most needed, I'm not sure what would be most needed, but something that is very needed is the current governance of both the St. Paul and Minneapolis. Specifically, we've seen with Jacob Fry or their governor, Tim Walz, where it's just kind of been bland. You see Chicago's mayor giving call to a general strike back in the late fall, and you see New York's mayor doing things that they thought was never possible with how you can actually get things done in that position. And not that we need to rely on those politicians at all to fend for ourselves and do things for ourselves. It is, however, telling that they're not doing a lot. And so pushing for that, and also in the face of that, pushing for each other to continue this, to upkeep this, to find ways to get support from, maybe it be in the, I know it's Minneapolis, so it's hard to stay warm, but community gardens that maintain food systems that aren't reliant on grocery store purchases, and are people that are there using their skills and skill sets to do stuff that we've seen here in Indy with like repair cafes and maintaining our actual items that keep us going, our cars that take us to work, and where we don't have to utilize our savings for expenses that are big and demanding, that create this kind of reliance on capital. It's stuff like that that can go a long way in the face of a governance that is not going for us at all. So we see that not only, I say us because it's not just Minneapolis that's dealing with this, it's everybody. We see that here with Hogshead. So it's definitely what we as the people, the working class, can do, and we can also demand while we do from those that are supposed to represent us. It's not going to be perfect or easy or one-stop solution, and it's also not new waters we're treading. We've seen general strikes happen in the U.S. before, and we've seen the people show out for their communities in the face of their representatives not doing anything before. And so look to the past in American socialist history and American history and see what the people have done, and you will find your solution.
I love it. Yeah. And the idea that like leadership or misleadership in a lot of ways, right? Like but as well as organization of the people. I think capitalism does a really good job of stripping the people of our confidence in ourselves and making us think that we need, misleadership to guide us. And in reality, that's not necessary, right? The people can show up for one another, which is what they're doing in Minneapolis and what they're doing all over the country right now, right? Like, we're showing up.
A good example of people showing out that I saw in Minneapolis was actually a small business called Modern Times that is mostly a brunch place. And they renamed themselves to Postmodern Times and went donation only for in the entirety of their existence until ICE is out of that city. And it was packed. I could not find a seat. We actually couldn't show up and sit because there was an hour wait. And they had free signs that just says ICE out of Minneapolis stacked in a giant box that were free for the taking, whistles and pamphlets, and they were busy. And the people want to donate to things like that. The people want to show out for their community, for stuff like that. And so shout out to Postmodern Times for both a really fun rebrand and also a strategic way of utilizing this call for a strike to enact this conversation within the people that are in that community. And the people everywhere are doing stuff like that when in their businesses or just within themselves. Maybe they have something that they contribute as an artist or as a speaker or as a mechanic or you name it. They are reformatting their existence, their entire existence for this moment.
I love it. One of the things you touched on it, but not too deeply, which is fine. But I wanted to emphasize for listeners, because I think a lot of people have, in general, when people go to rallies, they think about safety, right? But especially with Minneapolis and the murders, right, that have happened, right? So rightfully so, people are concerned about safety. But you mentioned like how you all kept each other safe, and like, there are people who are assigned to making sure like people aren't getting hit by cars, right? And anything else that you feel like you want to touch on when it comes to like safety, right? Because there are people who are listening who that is a concern for them, is like, how do I make sure, I'm safe? So anything you want to say to those people?
Yeah. To the people that I had in my life that were worried about me going, I said the same thing that I'm going to say now, is that we are safer in numbers, and that also there is always going to be an inherent risk, but you are always capable of mitigating those risks by knowing what to look out for, knowing who you have around you, having ways to keep each other communicating about what you're seeing, especially when there was a moment where we saw ICE and we saw them with the police, they were just sitting there, but we were able to know that they were coming up on the route, and not only keep everybody informed, but keep everyone away. And especially with people that may be angry at the protest, not many people were at all, but say they were and they were in a vehicle, there are definitely protocols and methods to make sure that we keep the people safe as well. But when you see a mass number of people, you all become the people. It is a object of permanence to whoever's there. It's too big to fail. I know that we had said that in our lexicon in the United States for banks, but it's true with people too. It's like too big to fail is a reality when you have that many people. And you also see how that works when you're on the line of this kind of security, putting on just a regular high-vis vest. People want to be safe when they're there, and there was a lot of thank yous from the individuals that were in the crowd. And it shows that they appreciate the at least veneer of protection that it looks like there is, because there is. Once we establish it being a thing, it becomes a thing. And so anyone, the point of me saying that is because anyone can put on a vest and go out there and protect their people, and everyone can show out to a protest, and in that numbers of safety, they are protecting their people. Keep an eye out on the people you're with and just maintain that safety in numbers, and it'll be a experience, I guess, of safety that you can look to and re-implement at other actions. It doesn't have to be like the biggest thing in the world, like you saw on the 23rd or the 30th. Every single thing you do, whether it be in a small space at a teach-in or at a big space like a protest, when you're there with people, you are safer in numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that point that, of course we keep each other safe, but that point you made of like, there is, we don't want to sugarcoat it. There's always like a level of risk that goes with doing any organizing. And I'm not going to quote it exactly, but there's a quote from Fred Hampton where he talks about, if you're afraid to stand up for yourself and your people because you're afraid of dying, then you're already dead, and that's not to say that the people who have been killed, we don't care, right? Because it is a tragedy. The amount of people that they've killed just in 2026, we're only in February, is wild. One person would be wild, honestly. But it's way more than one. But yeah, that safety in numbers is so important there was a lot of people in Minneapolis, but even if it's just like 20 people at a rally, right? Like keep each other safe. I love that.
Yeah. Even with the videos that we've seen of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy, the obvious fact is that they were not safe from the harm and the risk of being there where Border Patrol or ICE was. The fortunate side effect of people being there is that this was spread to the entire world. And they got to see the horrors of this ICE terror on a broad scale that a lot of the other people that have been killed by the ICE or Border Patrol agents were not documented. And so when people are there, not only is it documented and it keeps future people safe, it also allows, if more people, for that not to happen at all.
Yeah. Any last words, thoughts that you want to give listeners?
My call to action would be what I heard from my friend who I stayed with, who had been running that mutual aid organization at the school, which was get involved with your network and with your community, whether it be your neighborhood or where you work. There's someone that you know or someone you know that knows someone that is having needs right now. They are scared to go outside. They are scared to go to work. They can't go to work. They're not sending their kids to school. They are scared. Look at the person that's in front of you and on your daily, figure out what they need or if the people in their community need something, because that's what it's really about, is that there's somebody in front of you that you can find this connection with. And it goes back to safety in numbers, because you get to build this number of people in your network or be part of a network in your neighborhood that can create these systems of mutual aid or direct aid that benefit each other and not the economy, and prepare us for future calls for general strikes or no business as usual actions that will maintain our living but also disrupt the status quo. So talk to someone that is right in front of you. They're there. The people are there. This is not something that's far away. No one is more than 1 degree away from this administration's terror right now.
Dope. Thank you so much, Jay. Appreciate you. And we will be right back after this short break.
And we're back on Naptown People's Radio. I hope you enjoyed that firsthand account of Minneapolis, which is, just a tip of the spear of, the movement that is gripping the country and could even change the balance of forces in the world. So before we wrap up here, Danny, who gets a Circle City shout out?
So today's Circle City shout out goes to Hear Her Voice. Now, Hear Her Voice is a transformative healing space dedicated to empowering individuals impacted by trauma, addiction, incarceration, and systemic injustice. It was founded by Tyra Kincaid, also known as Nairobi. I don't think I've ever called her Tyra. I always call her Nai or Nairobi, back in 2024. Our mission in Hear Her Voice is rooted in resilience, lived experiences, and, the belief that every voice deserves to be heard and honored. I said our because I am on the board for Hear Her Voice, and the people who are a part of Hear Her Voice, Nairobi especially, are some of the most amazing people I have ever met, some of the most dedicated people I've ever met. I don't know if Nairobi ever sleeps, honestly. It's a little concerning, but it just shows her dedication to the people, honestly. Hear Her Voice provides a creative and trauma-informed program, and it promotes healing, self-discovery, and community connection through expressive writing, mentorship, recovery support, and reentry services. We actually just finished up a booklet that is now available on Amazon, and it's for people to utilize in their services for those who are incarcerated. Or, if you're a trauma therapist like myself, right, you can utilize it as well. So it's super dope, and it's definitely been a labor of love. Our approach blends storytelling, mental health education, and personal development to guide individuals on their own personal path to restoration and empowerment. And Hear Her Voice, once again, like I say during this segment all the time, is just a really good testament of what are your talents and how can you contribute to the well-being of the people. Nairobi did just such a great job of asking everyone, what do you want to contribute to this workbook? Everyone's styles are a little bit different, but it's for the same goal, right? To help people who have been incarcerated, to help people who have trauma, which is, most people who are living under capitalism. Capitalism is traumatic itself. So yeah, whatever your talents are, they can be utilized for the betterment of the people. Shout out to Hear Her Voice.
Yeah, I want to just, double down on that because, Nairobi and Hear Her Voice, who I was introduced to through Shaka and the 40 Strong, I've been just continually impressed by the creativity that they put into their work, the openness. I mean, they've got a range of services. If you go to their website, hearhervoice.org, or hearhervoice.blog, you can see that there's a 800 hotline. They deal with so many issues. But I think, we want to spotlight this because of the workbook that came out, Hear Her Voice, the recovery workbook that is specifically for women at this point in time, although there are other recovery workbooks, right?
Mm-hmm. And we're working on Hear His Voice as well, which is, the same idea, but yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah. So Hear His Voice recovery workbook. There is his successful reentry workbook, Brain on Trauma Men's Recovery Workbook, You can get those at her Square site, which we will link to. But the exciting thing about the Hear Her Voice Recovery Workbook is just, it's like a curriculum. It's a curriculum, and it includes, checklists, daily practices, the fundamental things, as well as the political oversight, the political ideas. So, sorry for making that longer, but I just love Nairobi. I love to hear her voice so much, and I just had to put my 2 cents in there.
Oh, it was appreciated, because I don't think we can really diminish the amount of work that Hear Her Voice is doing. So,
yeah. And we're proud to be affiliated with the organization and with Nairobi. And she's incredible, and just a lovely person.
So, oh my God, one of the nicest people ever. Actually, yeah.
Okay, cool. So before we wrap up, I want to call your attention to a couple of things that have happened recently, are happening, and will happen. So the first is, on Friday, February 6th, we were honored to host the debut of a new Hispanic cultural hub with their group show Heart and Heritage. And I encourage you to come by the center anytime during our public hours and check out the work. It's truly amazing. Some of it's for sale. The artists, of course, get commission. And then we have the regular programming on the weekend. So it's at Circle City Sangha, 9:30 to 11 on Saturday. Emancipatory Emotions, 6 to 8 p.m. Sunday. We will have the Capital Reading Group, which we are nearing the end of, on Saturday from 2 to 4 p.m. And we'll be covering chapters 16 through 22, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually less than half of the chapter 15. And if you weren't able to make it because we had to have a makeup class because of some circumstances, to get caught up, just listen to Reading Capital Comrades, those episodes. Will get you caught up to speed, basically.
Did you just plug yourself? It's so funny. Okay. Go ahead.
No, because it's a collective effort.
Okay.
And in fact,
okay,
it wasn't my idea. And a lot of editing went into the script. Patricia Gorky asked the questions, it went through revisions.
Okay.
I'm being a little bit defensive here.
A little.
But I'm just trying to emphasize the collectivity, that it's not mine.
All right. Okay.
I'm just a voice. Not even the best one at that. And that'll do it for this episode of Naptown People's Radio. If you found today's discussion useful, pass it on, leave a comment, share it with somebody, listen for our next episode to drop, and of course, show us some love at donate.naptownpeoplesradio.com. The road ahead is long, but we walk it together. Study with your comrades, build with your community, and always remember, theory without action is paralysis, but action without theory is chaos. Once again, I'm your host, Derek Ford, here with my comrade and co-host,
Danny Abdullah.
Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and stay in the struggle.
We say all power to the people. That means that we are our own liberators. We don't depend on nobody else. We depend on ourselves. And we take responsibility for ourselves. And therefore, we step up for our organization. Those that have proven by their actions and their practice that they represent for us. All power to the people in peace.
Collaboration. We act as if there's a scarcity of rights. If gay people get rights, women can't have rights. But that's not true. A victory for one is a victory for all. As Dan's just saying, And
you talk about people being fearless in the face of whoever there is. They don't care. To the Liberation Center, I would say, this is what we need.